Yo, what's up guys? CUES here from Performance Capital. Today we are going to talk about hinge position, alright? And our first important tip is our posture during our hinge movements, okay? So a lot of the hinge movements include the deadlifts and the variations of your deadlift, and then also bent over rows or good mornings as well, okay? So there's a lot of different exercises where you can utilize the hinge position, and it's really important that we focus on having a strong posture throughout that hinge position. So I'm gonna show you really quickly, that's why I'm holding this broomstick, a few little tips that you can use to keep good postural alignment while we go through the hinge position, okay? So what you wanna do is you wanna make sure that this broomstick is touching against your head, in between your shoulder blades, and just at the top of your buttocks, okay? So just up here, there's a small crease where your sacrum lies, at the bottom of your spine, that you need the stick to be touching as you perform the hinge, okay? Now the hinge movement's a lot easier to perform if you have soft knees. If they're too straight and you lock them out, it'll be very difficult if you have bad mobility through the hips, because you'll start to use an increased mobility through your lower back, and that's not what we want while we perform this, because it makes a little kink in the chain and it will make you a little weaker in your lifts, okay? So touching the head, also touching between the shoulder blades, and then just on your sacrum, the lowest part of your spine, all right? So when we have those 3 points, we're gonna stand with a hip width stance, all right? Soft at our knees first, and then instead of just leaning forward, we're gonna pretend there's a big button behind us, on the wall behind. We're gonna try and push with our butt, okay? So we go soft at the knees and we push those hips back, and then we come up again, okay? So another time from the side, we're gonna go soft at our knees, push our hips back, and that is our hinge movement. All right, if you are finding any part of your body that's supposed to be touching the broomstick drifting away, then slow down the movement, okay, and try to perfect it, because we want to make sure that those 3 points touch throughout the movement, because that means we have a good strong posture as we move. So our next tip, other than using the broomstick to move through that movement, is obviously soft at the knees, but where do we want to be pushing to make sure that we're engaging through our posterior chain? All right, if you don't know what the posterior chain is, basically it's referring to the chain of muscles that form a link at your back, okay? So you've got everything up through your upper back, your lower back, your glutes, your hamstrings, and then your calf muscles as well. And it's really easy to engage and activate all these muscles just by shifting your weight back into your heels. Okay, so if you stand up right now, shift the weight back into your heels, you should feel some activation happening through your legs, okay? And then as you put yourself off balance as well, in the hinge position, whilst also pushing through those same areas, you'll feel an even better engagement happening, especially through your hamstrings and your glutes, okay? So making sure that we drift that weight slightly back every time we perform the hinge motion will help you to engage through those correct areas, okay? This is one of my biggest little cues that I like to use with a lot of clients, because it will help them, especially when they do bent over rows. The biggest problem with bent over rows is because it is an upper back exercise, we usually drift our focus into our lower back, okay? So as well as the arms, pulling and trying to squeeze through your upper back, you forget about where the focus should be elsewhere, okay? Because you're too focused on what's happening through the upper back and torso. So to fix this, a little tip of drifting the weight back into the heels, whilst also trying to engage slightly through the core, can really help to assist your lower back. So it's not the only one doing all the work, okay? Because we start to use and focus more on our glutes and hammies. So this is my main tip. Basically, let's use that broomstick, make sure it's touching all 3 points, okay? That is the back of the head, in between your shoulder blades, and then also just the lowest part of your spine, okay? It just sits at the top of your buttocks. It's called your sacrum, all right? So that little area right there needs to be touching along this piece of wood as you perform the movement. If you feel that your lower back is starting to round and push the little broomstick away from your body, then it means it's not touching that sacrum, and it means that you're probably not holding a solid arch throughout the movement. Okay, so most of these posterior chain exercises, we need a nice solid arch, or at least a neutral spine, and we need to be loading up through the right muscle groups. Okay, the other tips include soft at our knees, and then also making sure that we drive through our heels, especially when we're driving up, so that we can try and engage through that posterior chain from the legs down even better. Cheers, guys.